Welcome to Our Culture to the World. Come with me and meet new people and share their experiences in this episode of Our Culture to the World. My guest today is Paul Bayer. And Paul, welcome. I know you teach music at Clemson University, but I'd like you to give us some more insight into who you are, some of your background.
Well, sure, Melva. Thanks for having me. I'm Paul Bayer, and I serve as Director of Percussion at Clemson University. This is my 25th year, and I teach the percussion ensemble, two steel bands, a lot of the private lessons. I oversee the drum line for Tiger Band, and I teach courses in world music, which is right up the alley of your YouTube channel. And so I get all the drummers basically in the music department here at Clemson.
Okay, yes. And and it's actually the steel band that kind of drew me
Yes.
to you and to talk to you, but we're going to get into that a little later. Tell us some more about your musical background. How long have you been in this field? And, you're a percussionist. And where did you study and so on?
Yeah, well, really, probably since I was 17 or 18. It was just a hobby in high school, and I was in the band and played snare drum and played tri-toms in the marching band, cymbals, bass drum. And I have a cousin whose name is Mike Balter, who was a professional percussionist in the Chicago area. And I really didn't know his stature until later, but I decided to take lessons with Mike Balter when I was junior, senior in high school. And he really introduced me to the world of percussion and encouraged me to major in music. I majored in music education at Ball State University in Indiana. And I did my master's and doctorate at the University of Arizona in Tucson in percussion performance.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so I remember in my the first year I started, my first academic year teaching at Clemson, I was walking across from the ASC. I had a class in the Academic Success Center, and I was walking across to Daniel Hall, and I heard steel band music. I'm like, steel band music in South Carolina. So I circled back to the library. So I sought you out, and I'm like, how come I'm hearing steel band music at Clemson? So steel band, how did your interest in the steel band music begin?
Well, that's a great question. So when I was a graduate student at the University of Arizona, they had a steel band program. And that was one of the reasons I chose Arizona for graduate school. I had really never learned or played or heard very many steel bands in my undergraduate experience at all. So I thought, as a percussionist, the job market, this is something I really need to learn. And it was fascinating. And I really loved the sound and the sonority of the steel band. So I learned and I joined the band. I played the leads and the double seconds and drum set throughout my years at the University of Arizona. And I just felt that piece of the percussion puzzle could really help me applying for college positions.
Mm-hmm.
And it really did. So when I got to Clemson in 1998, I spoke of my experience with steel band in Arizona. They were very interested. They kind of had a vision of having a steel band here at Clemson someday. And I really think that was a big part of why I was hired to give Clemson and our department that opportunity.
Wow, great, wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the Clemson, or how would we call it? The steel band, steel orchestra? What's the best way to describe it?
The official name is the Clemson Steel Band.
The Clemson Steel Band. Okay, so the Clemson Steel Band. Oh, I know you said you introduced the program. So when did you introduce it? How, and just tell us a bit about how that program started.
Yeah, so we were able to get a grant in 2002. Back then, it was called the Innovation Fund, and it was for innovative ideas around campus to really enhance campus life and the student experience, and especially in performing arts. And I authored that grant proposal with our department chair at the time, Dr. Rick Goodstein, who was later our dean. And in 2002, we were able to get funds to not only buy the steel pans, but cases and covers and the stands that they go on, the mallets, music, everything that you would need, everything that the students would need to start learning how to play. And we submitted that grant in 2001. It took about a year to get everything in. And the gentleman that built our instruments was Cliff Alexis. And Cliff was the director of the steel band at Northern Illinois University. And he was Liam Teague's mentor and teacher. And we'll talk about him as we go here. Liam Teague is now the director of the Northern Illinois University steel band. They're really the gold standard in my mind of college steel bands around the country. And Cliff had built our instruments in Arizona. So I knew Cliff when I was a graduate student. He would come out every year and tune and work with us, come to rehearsals, help us out on our music. So Cliff was the very first call that I made when we got that grant here at Clemson.
Okay, great, wonderful. So, the steel band at Clemson has a long history. You've been there for a while. Yes, it's now 21 years?
25 years.
25, I'm okay, 25. Okay, so now I noticed, tell me, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I noticed that you have more than just the steel pans and drums. You have some other instruments in the steel band. Well, what are the other instruments you have, and why have you chosen to include them?
Right. Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, where these instruments are from, they have a rhythm section called the engine room that accompanies the steel pans. So the engine room really literally is the engine behind the music. You can think of a jazz ensemble with a rhythm section. You can think of a Latin jazz ensemble or a mambo group that has a lot of accessory percussion, or what we call auxiliary percussion. So in this group, you've got car brake drums and cowbells, triangle, shakers and scrapers. You've got congas that are a Cuban descendant, and sometimes you have timbales and so forth. So it's really a Latin percussion ensemble of sorts that really blend in and drives the music of the steel band.
Okay, great. Now, you mentioned, can't remember his first name, but Alexis?
Yes, Cliff
Alexis, yeah. Who, helped you with the pans. And, how is it, how do you maintain your pans? Because, like any musical instrument, it needs to be maintained. You have to keep them tuned and so on. How do you do that?
Yeah, it was very similar to pianos. You have to get them tuned annually or biannually to make sure that they're in tune. And so the short story is there's a gentleman in Los Angeles named Chris Wabich. And Chris Wabich is a professional drum set player in Los Angeles, recording artist. He learned how to tune steel drums as a college student when he was, I believe, at either Appalachian State or Long Beach State. Those are two of the schools that he studied percussion at. So it's just something that he kind of picked up. He's really a genius when it comes to tuning steel pan. And when Cliff Alexis was not able to travel anymore to Arizona to tune, we brought out Chris Wabich to tune. So I bring out Chris Wabich every year, fly him out from Los Angeles. His father actually lives in Asheville, North Carolina. Works out really well. He can see his family. He drives down. He brings a bag of sledgehammers, which is really the primary tool that you need to tune these instruments. I put him up for a night. He's here for about 36 hours, and he makes the instruments sound just phenomenal. And we take very good care of him. I should say that, my students and I, but like pianos, you do have to have them tuned. So he does a great job, and he's able to work that out. And he tunes a lot of other schools in South Carolina also while he's in the States.
Yes. That's good. It's good that, there's someone who can do that so that you can keep those instruments in good condition. Now, of course, when we teach music, I mean, anything we teach really, you have certain background information that we need to sensitize our students to. So in music, in teaching the steel pan, how do you incorporate any music, any history of that, of the instruments and how it came to be and so on?
I definitely do. Usually takes place the first day of class when students are coming to an orientation of sorts. They're interested in auditioning for the steel band. We do have an audition. And I kind of take them through a walking tour in our rehearsal room of all of the instruments. And, we talk about the fact that they are from Trinidad and Tobago, although they are spread around the world, and you'll see them in all sorts of Caribbean islands and many schools in the United States, Japan, and it's really a world music phenomenon.
Yeah.
So they know that they are from Trinidad. We talk about how they are built from a 55-gallon oil barrel. The construction is really a very specialized art form, and there's more and more tuners and builders out there, but you really have to be careful of who to trust. And you have to make sure that you're getting quality instruments and that your tuners know what they're doing, because they can go out of tune if you play them a lot, or if they're overplayed from, let's say, middle school students, perhaps that are not don't have the leadership and instruction that they should. So it's really a fascinating history that started in the 1940s in Trinidad, and preceded that with what we call the tambour bamboo bands, when African drums were outlawed and they were banned. The locals would start playing these bamboo poles. They would kind of transfer their African drumming, their polyrhythms, their ostinatos on bamboo. Bamboo eventually would break down and splinter. They started to add some metal instruments, trash can lids and dustbins and paint cans, shakers, bottles, spoons, and anything that they could find that would make a sound where they can play the rhythms. And then those metal instruments started to be experimented with. And like any pot or pan that you might have in your kitchen, you're going to notice that there's a pitch that these pots and pans can make. And the Trinidadians were very resourceful and just started to iterate and tweak and experiment with actually creating pitched steel drums. And that eventually happened in the 1940s, and it's just evolved from there.
Right. Yes. So, steel band music has been a part of the music program at Clemson for quite some time now.
Yes.
And what's the level of interest in among students and in the community? First of all, maybe you could say what the level of interest was when you first started, and what you've seen over the years.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to give you some data, actually.
Okay.
To your question first, and then I can expand after that. But my very first concert in 1999, when it was just the percussion ensemble, we didn't have the steel drums yet. And Clemson had really never had a percussion teacher before. So this was my very first concert with my students. I had 19 people attend in the Brooks Center.
Right, and that's a big space. Yes.
Most of those people were my colleagues, supporting the new guy. And what is this percussion ensemble? We've never had this. They just came to support me. So as I said, we got the steel drums in 2002, and by 2005, when we had the percussion ensemble and the steel band, we had 1,000 people.
Wow.
In the Brooks Center.
Wow.
So that showed me the level of interest for this ensemble, for the steel band in particular, was huge in a small town like Clemson.
Yes. Yes, because for the viewers, when these performances, they're not just for students, and it's not just for the university community. They the public
Yes.
attend these events also. So yes, wow, this is that. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So
So
yes, and I've been to a few since I've been here, and yes, the the Brook Center is always packed
it is.
at those
It is.
performances. Yes. Um, Let's listen to the Clemson University Steel Band play a short piece for us. Enjoy.
Wasn't that great, kids?
So I went to your most recent performance in April, towards the end of April this year, 2023. And I noticed that there were some CDs on sale afterwards. Were those of the steel band performances?
Yeah. So part of the I think the building of the steel band program is we have done four albums, four CDs since we started the band. The first was in 2004. That album was called "Steel in the Spotlights." So you'll get a theme here.
Right, right.
2008, we have "One Small Step for Pan." 2011 was "Pan Overboard." And then our newest CD that came out in 2020 was called "We're Still Here."
Okay.
A lot of this is back when people were actually buying CDs, but I can't say that our new album is also on all the digital platforms: Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. And it's a way. It's really two purposes. It was a way for the students to experience a recording session and get their high level playing on CD, so they can have that memory forever, and really to get our music out to a wider public.
Right.
And people that may not be living close enough to Clemson to come to our live shows, and maybe they want to hear our music and add to their CD collection. So it's been a really great labor of love. We do all the recording right here in the Brook Center, and the albums have been very well received. And I don't know when the next one is. We probably want to do a CD, a compact disc, but we'll definitely the digital platforms again.
Yeah, but tell me where so if besides apart from the performances, where can we get the CDs to buy if we'd like to buy them?
Yeah, there's really two primary places. The first is the Clemson Marketplace, which has a website that you can access directly. And then the others would be directly from me at pbuyer@clemson.edu. And I can get those out to whoever is interested and communicate with any fans that want our music. So through emailing me or through the Clemson Marketplace.
Okay, okay. Great. Yes, definitely. That information is going to be there, and viewers, buy the CDs, okay? And remember, he mentioned that they're on Spotify, the digital platform. So if you're not into CDs like us older folks, you could access the music there. All right. So music education. You did mention, I heard you mention that in some of the schools in the area in South Carolina, there's steel band programs. So how prevalent is that?
Yeah, well, steel band is very prevalent in South Carolina.
Really? I never knew that.
And I think the main reason is a lot of the percussion educators have steel band experience. And the natural thing to do is to bring that experience to their schools, whether it's a middle school or a high school or a university. I know Clemson and University of South Carolina and Coastal Carolina have very strong steel band programs. There's several high schools that have steel bands. Not as many as you might think, because most of the students that I get have never played steel drums. I do have a really wonderful player, Sydney Greer, who played on the concert that you saw. And Sydney is a freshman. She's actually been playing for 9 years. And her father, Mike Greer, is the steel band director at DuBose Middle School in Somerville, South Carolina. So she's grown up with the instrument, with the art form. She's been a wonderful addition to the band. Having Liam T come for her first concert was pretty nice. And there's actually a lot of elementary schools. My wife used to teach at Logan Elementary, downtown Columbia. And she taught Montessori at that school. And they have, I think to this day, they still have an elementary school steel band.
Okay. Yes, I was actually surprised a few months back when a friend, she shared her granddaughter is, into music, and she just graduated, or she is about to graduate from Seneca High School. And she shared something on Facebook with her granddaughter playing the steel band. Because I think her main instrument is, I think, the clarinet or some other wind instrument. But she was saying, and she also plays the steel drums. And she shared that. And I said, oh, Seneca High School has a steel band. I didn't even know. And I live in Seneca.
Yeah, they do. I think they still do. I know their band director had moved for another job, but I believe they still have a steel band. So that's right up the road.
Yes, because I think she shared that picture earlier this year. It wasn't that, so this, either early this year or late last year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. So what I noticed too in the last performance, there was a little flyer advertising a summer workshop. So how do you do this every summer? And this is for the community. If anybody wants to come and learn, have a workshop to learn to play the steel band, they can come. How often do you do this, and how does it impact in the community?
Yeah, so no, thanks for asking me that. This is a community workshop called Learn to Play Steel Drums. I've been doing this for about 20 years here at the Brook Center on campus. And this year, it is Saturday, June 10th, from 10 till 2. And basically, this is a chance really for anybody to learn how to play this wonderful instrument. And you do not need any musical experience at all. You do not need to read music. I teach primarily by rote, which is really the traditional way that music is taught in Trinidad, which is really by ear. So you don't have to read quarter notes or eighth notes or a G or a B flat or anything written down. The workshop is $60 a person and includes lunch. And I just found out this morning that I have 4 spots left.
Okay. Yeah.
We have 11 different steel pans, and I can take up to 11 in each workshop, so everybody gets a chance to play their own instruments. And I can send you that link for registration.
Yes, please do, because please do. Yes. Okay. So what are your future plans or goals for the Clemson University Steel Band?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. We were fortunate to have Liam Teague as our guest artist here on this last concert. He's one of the greatest steel pan musicians in the world. And I think the first priority for the band moving forward is I would like to have more big name guest artists come and play with us and give the students that experience. There's really nothing like sharing a concert with a legend and a guest artist of their caliber. And that would be the first thing. And the second thing would be to consider a new album down the road and a new CD. We've always wanted to we have a small sextet professional group as well called the Gigging Steel Band, and they're available for hire. We play parties, wedding receptions, we play for the presidents, we play for the International Festival on Bowman Field. We played for the Title IX 50th anniversary this past semester. So we would always be interested in going on a cruise.
Oh.
Being booked for a 1 or a 2 week cruise and being the onboard entertainment anybody is watching the session here and has any connections to a cruise line, that is something we would be very interested in doing again. Experience. And, just getting people more aware of the art form and this great instrument and the great tradition and history of steel pan and how it all fits into the music program here at Clemson.
Yes. Good. Okay. Right. So this is where you do your gigs.
Yeah, this is we take 4 cars, 4 personal vehicles. We have a bass guitarist instead of our bass pans, and we're portable.
Right.
We played in Greenville. We played throughout the upstate. A lot of gigs on campus, downtown, private parties, and we can play between 30 minutes and 2 hours. I've got everything laid out in the contract. It's a really great opportunity to be a professional for the students.
Yes. So I'm sure you're enjoying this conversation. So why not subscribe? If you're not yet a subscriber, go ahead and hit subscribe. And we have good videos coming out very often, so you're always going to learn something. So as we continue, let's go ahead and listen to the Clemson Giggin Steel Band. Listen to them do their thing. Enjoy! So, and of course, when the students leave, they leave, they take the skill, that knowledge, and they continue to share it. So, in this here we're talking about sharing culture sharing, and cultural appreciation, and so this is something that started on a small Caribbean island. It's being shared throughout the world, and it continues to grow and to evolve. So, as we come to a close, what are your thoughts on what we can expect regarding steel band music in the upstate of South Carolina in the future? Because it's here, and it's more prevalent than I knew, that I was aware of. So, what are your thoughts on what we can expect in the future?
Well, I would hope we would have more steel band programs at all levels, starting elementary, middle, high school, and university. And I think that's already happening, because the more students that are getting the experience, they're going to end up wanting to offer this wherever they end up teaching. So I think that's a natural progression. I would hope we have some more builders and tuners, perhaps, that are skilled in this area, that are either in South Carolina or just throughout the United States. I also see it just getting more popular, and it's just such a versatile art form regarding the musical styles. I mean, steel bands can play jazz, pop, rock, not just calypso and soca, the traditional style. There are classical transcriptions. There's Beethoven and Bach string quartet, string symphony.
Yes, yeah.
So it's a great way to introduce students to a lot of different musical styles. Like I do in my workshop, it is accessible to beginners. So you don't have to take lessons for multiple years to learn how to get a good sound. You can do that pretty quickly, and it's fun. So I think it's very addictive, and people love listening to it, and they love playing the instruments also.
Yes, and I like what you said is so true. It's an instrument that you can play any kind of music, as you mentioned. Yes, so yes, so I really look forward to the growth, the continued growth of this musical form in the world, not just in South Carolina, but in the world. And so I would like to thank you so much, Professor Paul Byer, for taking the time to share with us today what so your experience as a percussionist, as a music educator, as the person who introduced steel band music to Clemson University, and I know you're going to continue to make a great impact on the musical growth in this area. So thank you so much for being a part of our Culture to the World today.
Thank you, Melvin, very much. Appreciate you having me today.
Okay, and to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. We're going to see you soon as we meet more people and continue to learn from their experiences on our next episode of Our Culture to the World.